What is up, everyone? Welcome to the depths of my messy IMNC HQ setup here. I do apologise, but I'm just too eager to show you guys this. Now, a couple of weeks back, I made a video about the Contour Design G-Riser. If you haven't seen that video, I recommend going to check it out because this is sort of like a spiritual part 2 to that video. Now, when we looked at the Contour Design G-Riser, I mentioned the existence of another Power Mac accessory made by Contour Design, and that of course is the G-Rack. Now, I knew of the G-Rack's existence from quite a while ago. The first ever time I saw one was on a video by This Is Adam B. It was sat on top of his Power Mac, and I was curious about it, and I believe he replied to somebody in the comments section along the way, and that's where I discovered that it was called a G-Rack. The seller that sold me the G-Riser, Eric, I've been keeping in touch with him, and we've been having various chats back and forth about nerdy old Mac stuff. It's been great to chat to him. And an email popped into my inbox one day and he was like, "Tom, I have found a G-Rack. Are you still interested?" And I was like, "Yes, please. Absolutely." So it turns out that he dug through his stuff and he did indeed find his old G-Rack from back in the day when he owned a G4 from new. So how cool is that, folks? We've got a G-Rack here to check out today. So let's dig in and we'll do all of the talking when we've actually got the product out of the packaging here. Check this out, super convenient. Unwrap from here. Very nice. Okay, excellent packaging by Eric. This thing was definitely safe in transit. We're down to the last layer, so let's just have a look and see what we've got. Look at that. And I'm really pleased actually that there are these illustrations on the packaging because I was just about to try and explain this, so this has worked out really well. As you can see, we've got the same Contour Design logo that we saw on the G-Riser, but this time the packaging is significantly different. It's not a big box, it's just the G-Rack with this cardboard sleeve around it. And right here on the sleeve you can see the uses for this accessory. So for those of you who have never seen a G3 or G4 tower in person, this accessory tries to combat the issue that the top of the machine isn't exactly flat. Now, you can get away with putting stuff on top of a G3 or G4 without this accessory, of course. You just plonk it on the top, but depending on the size of the device, it can be a little awkward because it's not completely flat. What this does is it sits on top of the handles of the machine and it creates a completely flat surface for you to put large items on. You can see we've got some big old school drives here on top of the G-Rack, and those would have never have gone onto that tower without the G-Rack. They're absolutely huge. So quite convenient to make a stack of equipment like that. But also conveniently, it's a CD rack. Now, of course, CD is not so much used these days, but I guess if you've got an old Power Mac, maybe you're still using a lot of optical media with it, so you can use it to stack CDs, and we will give that a go in a minute. You could, of course, use it for both as well. If you've got a device that is smaller and it's sitting on the back or the front, you could then populate some of the other slots with CDs. So this was the main idea of the G-Rack. A functional accessory for the Power Mac, same as the G-Riser, serving a very different purpose, of course. The G-Riser primarily was designed to lift the Power Mac off the desk or off the floor in order to get more airflow travelling under the machine, with the hope of keeping the machine generally cooler overall. And this guy is for the purposes that we just discussed here. So let's slide it out of the package and have a little look. I'd just like to show you guys on the back here as well. You can see that the G-Riser is advertised, which is cool. So the G-Riser existed when this came out as well. I guess they came out around the same time. And then you can see a couple of mice here. Now, Contour Design, like I said in the G-Riser video, they still exist and they still make these sorts of accessories. They do a lot of stuff for accessibility and adapted technology and stuff like that. So they're still out there, they're still around, still doing products, which is great. And then down here we've got the assembly instructions. Easy assembly, only 2 steps. Take one end of the G-Rack and place the clips against one of the handles. And then step 2, holding the G-Rack against the handle, push down on the other side of the G-Rack to snap it into place. So that should be fairly straightforward, and we'll give it a go. We'll try it on my Quicksilver. Now with the G-Riser is specifically for the G3 and the early G4 Power Macs with the original graphite case design. They've got a slightly different design to the feet. I've got my Quicksilver sat on the G-Riser, but it's not a perfect fit. So let's see if that's the same for the G-Rack. Let's see how it fits. So I've got a few bits and pieces that live on top of my G4, and this is a good example of what I was talking about. If your devices are small enough, they will fit on here just fine without the need of any kind of rack. From side to side, the top of the machines are flat, but what they do is they obviously curve down towards the front and the back, and the handles are in the way. So if you want to plonk a really big device, such as one of these drives that they showed on the packaging, and you see this lump of a thing, that would never in a million years go on the tower without this accessory. So what we're going to try and do, guys, is lift the pile of accessories I have here, and do you know what? That won't actually work because I've got the cabling going down under the handle. I don't think that will be convenient, or will it? Let's see if we can get it to work out. Yeah, we're going to have to remove this stuff, otherwise it's just going to be too awkward. Woo! That was good. Okay, there is a really audible clunk, sort of click-clunk noise when you push it down onto the machine. So, unlike the G-Riser, the G-Rack fits perfectly on top of the Quicksilver, and man, does it give you a flat surface to work with. So you can see, you can put stuff on top now, and yeah, you've got a lot of space to work with. That is nice actually, guys. That is really nice to see one in person. Really cool. And what's cool is as well, there's these little cutouts here, these kind of half circle cutouts from the G-Rack that allow you to still use the handle, so you can still pick the machine up because your fingers can go through here, so you can move the machine around with this attached. You don't have to keep taking it off. That is actually really cool. So for the first time, probably ever, as big of a deal as this may be or may not be to you if you're watching, I think it's a pretty big deal. For the first time that I know of anyway, on a YouTube video, we have got the two contour design accessories for a Power Mac sitting on a Power Mac. We've got the G-Rack and the G-Riser. So yeah, nice. Now one big difference, the G-Riser is very much the same as the plastic that's used on the Power Mac itself. It's very thick, it's extremely high quality, and just overall looks really nice. Now the rack itself, the plastic is a lot thinner, way thinner, and it's a completely different feeling plastic, and as you can see, in comparison to the machine and the G-Riser, it has over time yellowed ever so slightly. So you've just got that sort of hint, that sort of old plastic kind of look about it that hasn't affected the Power Mac or the G-Riser. It would be interesting to see if any kind of retro bright process would work with this guy, because the interesting thing about it is, of course, because it's transparent in the first place, I've never seen any kind of retro brighting done on an item like this. So you can sort of see that it is very subtle, and it's hard because the horrible sort of green paint in here. It's hard because there's a lot of refraction of the green walls on the plastic as well. But looking at it, you can see that on the cuts of the plastic, you can see that it's ever so slightly yellowed. But it's very subtle, very subtle. You can just tell that it's not that new. I'm going to be very gentle doing this process because I'd be very nervous to break the plastic. There we go. That's clicked into place, but that time I held it at the back so that it didn't do that big clunk down. So let's demo the CD rack functionality. I've got a music CD here. Now which way do they go in? It's not that way. It is that way, spine facing up. And quite appropriately, an OS 9 disc. That can sit there as well. And yeah, I guess you'd need a lot of CDs to keep them straight, right? I mean, they do balance there, but the holes, the slots are so big that they just sort of flap about. I must be completely honest, a CD rack is not really what I would use this product for if I was to buy it back in the day. If I was to buy it, it would be to plonk a large accessory on top, because that is definitely the most useful case for it. So just how large of an accessory can you safely get away with? Here I've got a large piece of 19-inch rack mount equipment. Let's plonk it on top. Yeah, solid. So that is a good example actually. I could imagine back in the day, in an office situation or something like that, you would want possibly a network switch or something like that sitting on top of this machine. They did make server configurations of the Graphite G4 when it came out. And if you wanted to get your switch on top or your other rack mount network gear and you're having a little bit of a we don't have a network rack crisis, you could plonk it on top of this guy with the G-Rack. But yeah, it does support, all jokes aside folks, it does support quite large pieces of equipment on top because it is very flat and there is no curvature to it whatsoever. It looks very sleek in design, follows the same design language as the machine, but as for the place where you pop the items, the top of it here, it's completely flat. So that is the Contour Design G-Rack, and I have to say a massive thank you to Eric for digging this out and sending me the email. It was a great day because when I mentioned in the last video that I needed one of these, you know, it's an actual need, official need for this accessory in my life, I thought it would be a good while trawling eBay. They do pop up on eBay, but from different countries and really expensive, and don't really want to go for the whole overseas shipping thing and open up that can of worms. So, I mean, to get one straight from this country from somebody that I now know and trust is absolutely brilliant. So I now have a G-Rack to accompany my G-Riser. I am fully kitted out with a pretty beastly looking G4. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a great look at another bizarre accessory. Again, if you haven't seen the previous video, the G-Riser video, go and check it out. Great fun in that one as well. Hope you've all enjoyed checking this out with me, and I'll see you all in the next video.